Hello everyone, it's Michelle Lupton here, and today I'm making a little love note with this folded love note fancy die from the January release from Hero Arts. So I am starting with some Nina Solar White cardstock, and I'm starting with the largest die in this folded love note die set. You can see that it cuts the edge, but it makes a whole lot of score lines, so I'm just going to show you how to score it. So these diagonal lines I'm folding inwards, and whatever you do on one side you do on the other side. Everything is symmetrical. And then I fold up from the bottom again on the diagonal lines and make sure I score them nicely so it'll fold nicely. Now the vertical lines we're going to fold backwards, so I'm going to fold that towards the back. I'll just flip it over to make it easier for myself, and again score that nice and firmly. Do exactly the same on the other side. It's all symmetrical. And they're all the scoring that I need to do, and then it's just a bit of finagling to get it to fold in. And it's so cool. Don't you just love things like that? They're just so neat and clever. It's like when you did origami when you were in primary school. Did you ever remember doing that? Okay, so the last little piece of cardstock, I started with half of a sheet of white cardstock. This little bit that was left off the side after I cut the main die, I've actually cut it down to make a belly band around my little love note. And this is just there to hold the whole thing shut. There's a few different ways you could do this. I thought one way you could do it is put like a wax seal on it, maybe. That'd be cool. But I thought a belly band would be good because you can put it on and take it off and put it back on again. So I'll come back to decorating that a little bit later on. But I'm also going to cut out a heart, which I'm going to stick onto the belly band. And that'll be sort of the front of my little love note. You can see that this die set has quite a few hearts of various different sizes. Some of them are just plain and some of them have a scalloped edge to them. So they're really cool and you could layer them up really nicely. I'm just using one today because I wanted to keep the outside of this love note fairly simple. And so that most of the detail is on the inside of the love note. Okay, so I've now got the base of my love note and the belly band all cut out, all the die cutting done. So now I'm going to start thinking about the inside. I've now pulled out a matching stamp and cut set called Love Note Messages, which coordinates perfectly with the folded Love Note fancy die, and it has a whole lot of stamps on it. I'm going to use just a few of those stamps, but I'm using the square die here, and I'm cutting this out a few times, just again from white cardstock. And what I'm going to be doing is some of these are going to stay as squares, some of them I'm going to cut down into triangles so that I can put them on the inside. Now what I'm going to use to decorate the inside other than those squares is some of these flowers and leaves from the January fancy die set called Floral Envelope. So I've pulled out a bunch of the flowers and the leaves from this set of dies, and I'm just going to run that through my die cutting machine. And I cut out a few of these because I wasn't quite sure how many I was going to use. I ended up not using all the ones that I cut out, but that's okay. Now, I spent ages trying to organise these into an arrangement that I really liked, but I got there eventually. And as I said, I kept it relatively simple because the actual folded love note is symmetrical on either side. I thought I'd keep the flowers kind of symmetrical, so I had one central sprig and one on either side. And what I decided to do, instead of actually cutting them from coloured cardstock, which would have been very, very bold, I decided I wanted everything to look pastel coloured. So I'm ink blending onto these die cuts. So I've got like a sticky mat on my glass work surface to hold these teeny tiny die cuts in place. And I'm just running over with some inks. I'll show you the colours of the inks in just a little bit. And I'm going with rainbow colours. So I'm going to have a pastel rainbow going on in this card. And while I was making this card, with the sort of pastel flowers and the pastel backgrounds, I had the song, the really, really old-fashioned song, The English Country Garden, running through my head. It was like an earworm. But that was kind of the colour scheme I was going for. All right, so with these panels, I thought about masking off all of those triangles on the folded love note, but I decided that I would just use these square panels and ink blend onto those and then stick them on, because I just thought, I like the idea of having a border, and this square leaves a little bit of a white border around the edge. It's slightly smaller than the big square in the folded love note. And I thought if I was to mask that off, I would probably do it wrong and not have even borders. So that's why I went there. Okay, so with these flowers, I have adhered the left and the right ones. With the middle ones, I actually ink blended the centre of the flowers in yellow, the flowers themselves in pink, and then the stem in green. So I actually did a little bit of paper piecing here. So I put in the centres of the flowers, and then I've sort of cut the pink ones off. I thought, again, masking off the flowers from the stems to do the ink blending seemed like too much hard work to me. So I just used two of them, ink blended one in pink, ink blended one in green, and I'd already popped out the centres of the flowers, so I ink blended them separately. So there's my little floral panel right in the centre, all done. Now, to get all the triangles, all I did was I took my squares that I had cut earlier on and I lined them up in my paper trimmer so that the corners were right on where the paper trimmer was going to cut. And then I just sliced right down the middle. And with this one, I sliced down the middle, then I turned it 90 degrees and sliced down the middle all over again. So I have a big square, a big triangle, and a whole lot of little triangles. So because I wanted this to be rainbow colours, I'm starting with the large triangle in pink on the left-hand side because the yellow is in the centre. I'm going to end up with blue on the right-hand side. It's not a complete rainbow because I don't have any purple in there. I just decided to keep it relatively simple because I wanted to leave a little bit of white space in this. I could have filled in every single panel with colour, but again, with the pastels, it's nice to have a little bit of white space for your eye to rest on. So here I'm doing the last colour. I've done the orange, now I've got the green, and now I was in a bit of a dilemma. I wasn't sure where to place the orange and the green. Did I want them to be staggered like this, or did I want them in the centre like this, or did I want them towards the edge like this? Now, I decided on option B, which was have the orange and the green sort of adjacent to the yellow one in the centre. I just thought it framed the yellow panel in the middle quite nicely to have that there, but still allowed a little bit of white space between the pink and the orange and between the green and the blue. All right, so that's most of the inside done. Tiny little bit left at the end. Now let's concentrate on the belly band. So I have my heart, and of course the heart has to be pink. I thought I would add a bit more contrast. Rather than going with analogous colours, I used blue on the actual belly band, so the pink would be right up against the blue. But then I used the other three colours on the other panels. Now, there's two triangle panels on the front, and there's a big square panel on the back because I thought we don't want to leave the back out. We need to have a little bit of colour there as well. So I have the orange and the yellow and the green on the front. Just using my paperweight here to hold that in place for a little while the glue sets. And then I'm going to ink blend the orange for the back, just making sure I've got not too much glue. I'm always I'm really, really bad with glue. I always put too much and I don't want it squidging out the sides. So I was trying to be very, very careful with the amount of glue I used. Now I've got to add a sentiment. So what I did was I took some stamps from that Love Note Messages stamp set, the one that I used the square die from earlier on. And I've got With Love on the heart, and then I've got For You from Me and a little heart on that I'm going to do on a banner on the inside. So what I did, I had one square that I'd cut left, and I've basically put the square on an angle on the diagonal inside my stamp positioner, and I'm then cutting across. Now, what's this going to do? It's going to mean that the edges of this banner that I'm cutting right now are going to line up perfectly with the square, and I won't have to worry about cutting it to get it exactly straight. What I did was I cut right across the bottom of the sentiment, and then the top of the sentiment I cut on either side, but then I fussy cut with my scissors around the heart, because I didn't really want too much of the flowers covered up, just a little bit for the sentiment. So now it's all about putting it together. So I've left actually adhering the belly band to itself to the very end, because you don't want to do it too early, because remember, I've added so many layers to this love note. And it's a lot thicker now than it started. So if I'd actually adhered that belly band together right at the very beginning, it probably wouldn't fit around this love note. And then I'm putting the heart on. I'm putting it at an angle so that the recipient kind of knows what orientation everything goes, and there you can open up and see that lovely bouquet in the centre, and then the belly band can go right back on so they can store it somewhere safe. So I hope you enjoyed watching me use these Love Notes fancy dies, and we'll see you back again next time. Bye.